Well, I suppose they did what I asked. I said that it would be nice if they could, lose a tight game against the Stars, play well in the game, but still get that little bit closer to a better draft pick. And sure enough, they did play a pretty good game against the Stars, even if it would have been nice if they could have scored at least once. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken lose 3-0 to the Dallas Stars in a game where, honestly, it was a much tighter game than the 3-0 score makes it look. One of those is an empty netter, and the other one comes on the start of a 5-minute major penalty. And honestly, the big difference in this game was really the defensive structure of the Stars, especially in their own end, not giving the Kraken much of anything in the offensive end. Still, though, defensively at the other end of the ice, the Kraken themselves were very good. Joey Daccord was great in net, and also got some help from the teammates around him with a couple of saves by skaters in this game, which technically count as blocks. Skaters can't actually get saves, but yeah, there were at least 3 that were basically saves by skaters out there behind Daccord. And you know what? While we're on the subject of the Kraken playing well in their end of the ice, we might as well jump right into the game where a good chunk of that happens, well, really throughout the first period, but especially right at the end of the first period. With, by the way, lineup-wise, the Kraken have basically the same lineup they did out last game. Riker Evans still in, which, by the way, I forgot to mention in the last game that when Riker Evans came back into the lineup, with he, Beniers, and Winterton all in the lineup for the Kraken the last 2 nights, that is the first 3 draft picks the Kraken had in their inaugural season, or actually before their inaugural season, playing in the same game for the Kraken. With Beniers obviously being the first round pick, the second overall pick, Evans the second round pick, and Winterton the third round pick. So yeah, a great sign of that prospect pool the Kraken already have early in their existence. Some great drafting by Ron Francis, and his first 3 picks already playing games in the NHL. Anyway, getting back to the game, it is a first period that is pretty much the Joey Daccord show right up until the last minute of the period, as Daccord keeps the Kraken in this game with save after save after save, a couple pretty good ones among them, nothing super spectacular, but definitely some high quality saves for Daccord. And then it all comes to a head right in the final 30 seconds. The Stars get one last rush on net. A shot on net does get through Daccord, but he just barely gets a piece of it with the inside of his leg as he closes up, enough that it goes off the side of the goal just behind the post and out to the back of it, where Matt Duchene, the guy that shot the puck in the first place, gets to it first and wraps it around the far side of the net before Daccord has a chance to scramble back in front of the net. But fortunately, Riker Evans comes to the rescue, crashing into the far post and closing it off before Duchene can wrap it around the post into the net. It goes off of Evans and back out to safety. Or would have been safety if it didn't go right back to Duchene, who now, with Evans closing off that post, sends it out to the far side, especially with Daccord coming back to that side for a follow-up shot. And of course, after all that, the sketchy save, but still a save nonetheless for Daccord, and then the technically not a save, but block from Riker Evans that absolutely saves a goal. There's a Stars player waiting on the other side of the net to get that pass from Duchene. The pass gets through to the far side, right through the legs of Schultz, who at least is doing his best to try to clog things up and not make it a completely free goal for Dallas. Still, the pass gets through to the other Dallas player. He gets the shot off, but Schultz then, who's spinning to try and find the puck at his feet, doesn't see it until it goes off of his stick and out to safety into the corner. Schultz coming up with a maybe a little bit more accidental, but another save or technically block, just like Evans had on the far side. The Kraken dodge 3 huge bullets in succession in a couple second span, and we get to the first intermission with the score still tied 0-0. And then in the second period, which again, the Kraken are a bit fortunate to not be at a deficit going into the second, thanks to some great play by Daccord throughout the period, and then timely defense to clean things up around the net there at the very end. But nonetheless, the score is even, and this second period is played much more even as well. It's back and forth pretty much the whole time, neither team really getting much as far as dangerous looks are concerned. Really well played defensively at both ends of the ice. Although, with that being said, I should mention that Dallas did actually get one very good scoring chance early on in the second, and really the only reason we make it into the late part of the second period is still scoreless is because while a shot on goal does lead to a chance that's going to beat Daccord and go into the back of the net right past the post, as the puck is getting shot on net, Oliver Bjorkstrand comes flying through the crease behind Daccord and gets his skate to the post just in time to take the puck with him out the far side and keep it out, coming up with a save of his own, picking right up where certainly Riker Evans, but even to some extent Justin Schultz, left off at this end of the first. And actually this one might have been even more impressive than either of those. So I suppose if you wanted to, you could look at it, even if it's not technically how the stats are recorded, as Joey Daccord getting 27 saves for the Kraken, Bjorkstrand 1, Schultz 1, and Riker Evans also 1. Again, that's not how it works. Those all technically on his blocks and not actual shots on net, but yeah, it's still some good defense and timely defense for the Kraken to save Decord a couple of goals. The Kraken eventually get a power play in the back half of the period, which they do get one decent look on, but still Ottinger is able to make the save, and we get into the final 2 minutes of the period, with things looking like it's going to all come down to the third, but with just over a minute left, off a faceoff in the Kraken end of the ice, the puck gets up to the blue line, fired on net, where it's just tipped enough by Wyatt Johnson to not give Joey much of a chance to make the save. It gets past him, bouncing along the ice, and into the goal to give Dallas the 1-0 lead. The Kraken couldn't come up with that one more fortunate bounce to get to the second intermission scoreless, so Dallas will go into the third with the 1-0 lead, which obviously from the perspective of trying to win the game is certainly not ideal, but also not anything the Kraken can't overcome. They played a pretty good second period and actually had some sustained offensive zone time here and there throughout the period, which is more than you could really say about the first, so they're improving as you go along. But it doesn't help when they, in the very first few seconds of the third, end up with a 5-minute major penalty to kill off, thanks to a hit by Adam Larsson that, I mean, they end up calling it a 5-minute major and game misconduct, so Larsson gets kicked out. And while he does make some contact with Tanev's head, Chris Tanev, Brandon Tanev's brother, who now plays for the Stars after getting traded by the Flames, but he does make some contact with either his elbow or honestly it looks like his upper arm going into the boards. He's trying to avoid the head and really gets more the arm of Tanev, who leaves the game for a little bit holding that arm, but went down, and it's bang bang enough that I can understand how they make the call in the moment. I don't really get how they keep this held up, at least with the game misconduct part of it. I can still kind of see if you're really trying to be good about protecting player safety and protecting the head like the league should be doing, how you still keep this as a 5-minute major, but the game misconduct just doesn't make any sense to me. In the end, that means that they are now missing Larsson for the rest of this game, and potentially more if he ends up getting suspended. I would be shocked if he gets suspended, especially considering the history of calls that have not gone that way for the Kraken. This is still a much cleaner hit than the one that took Dunn out almost a month ago, and he's still out to this point, although it sounds like he might be coming back soon. Anyway, like I've already said, they end up upholding it as a 5-minute major and game misconduct. Larsson gets kicked out, and I suppose, well, it doesn't really make any sense to me. That is probably the most consistent thing about the NHL with these calls, is that there is absolutely no consistency. So the Kraken come out once again on the bad end of one of these calls. Larsson leaves the game, and right away, just seconds after the faceoff to start that 5-minute major, Dallas scores for the first time. The initial shot comes from way up by the top of the faceoff circle, actually a bit above the top of the faceoff circle, from, I want to say, Jamie Benn. And Decord is pretty well screened. He can't see the shot coming, but fortunately, while I do think this puck was going to get past him and into the far side of the net, Jamie Alexiak is able to get the blade of his stick on it and keep it out and send it out to the far side. Unfortunately, it goes right to Joe Pavelski, who has made his way to that spot, and he puts it into the net before Decord can get back or really has a chance to see where the puck has ended up. That gives Dallas the power play goal, and still basically 5 more minutes of power play, since with a major, if you're new to the game, a major penalty, unlike minors, doesn't end when a goal is scored. A team can score as many times as they want on the major. Fortunately for the Kraken, though, they do kill off the rest of it, thanks in large part to Joey Decord, who makes a number of saves, but they get into the rest of the third, still down just 2. Unfortunately, with the way that Dallas was playing defensively, and Ottinger was playing in net on top of that, 2 goals really did seem like a lot to come back from. And sure enough, while the Kraken do, over the rest of the third period following the major penalty, get the majority of the puck possession time and even offensive zone time, they really aren't able to create anything dangerous as Dallas just turtles up in their end of the ice or in the neutral zone. They really don't give the Kraken anything as far as dangerous looks are concerned, don't really allow much traffic out in front of the net, so the Kraken are never really able to generate much as far as meaningful offense is concerned, and that even includes a power play they get late in the third, which Dallas does a fantastic job of killing off. Eventually, the Kraken go empty net with about 2.5 minutes left, and after a minute or so of 6-on-5, Dallas hits the empty net to make it 3-0, and you have our final score. So again, in the end with this game for the Kraken, like I said way back in the beginning, it does kind of suck that they couldn't score at least once, if for no other reason than, well, to me, the worst possible situation is for a home team to get shut out, so you don't get the goal horn and the goal song afterwards, with the Kraken one of the best goal songs and horns in the league in the Let's Go Kraken chant. Of course, granted, when the Kraken are the away team, I'd love for them to shut out every home team ever, but you get my point. It would have been nice if the Kraken could have scored at least the 1 goal. Still, they do really fight through this game and really play the Stars well. A very good team, one of the best teams in the NHL, and has a decent chance to still win the President's Trophy as the best team in the regular season. I don't know if it's going to happen for them, but they're at least close, and that says enough about how good that team is. So at the very least, while I don't think they'll be feeling great about it since it is a loss, and professional athletes tend to not feel great about losses, I don't by any means think that they embarrass themselves like we've seen a few times in the not so distant past. They played a good game against a good team, like I've said a couple times, and at the end of the day, it is best for the team in the long run. As far as that's concerned, unfortunately for the Kraken, a lot of the teams that they are trying to catch in the standings, or have catch them in the standings so that they can move up in the draft order, also ended up losing today, so they really don't pick up much ground other than the Flames won, so the Kraken are right back tied with the Flames. The Senators also won, so they get a little bit closer to the Kraken, and the Penguins lost, but in overtime, so they pick up a point and stay just above the Kraken. Now, if we have this same result against the next team the Kraken play in the San Jose Sharks, then that would qualify as an embarrassment, with them being the worst team in the NHL. Now, the Kraken have already gotten shut out by them once in San Jose already this season, and the Sharks did just shut out the Blues, who were fighting for a playoff spot. It doesn't look like they're going to get there now at this point, with Vegas starting to heat up, and, well, they lost to the Sharks. But still, that's a game the Kraken really should win. Yeah, in the long term, it's not great for them too, but that's a game that if they're playing even anywhere near potential, they definitely should be able to win without any trouble, like we saw in the last two games against the Ducks. Anyway, with that said, let's finish things out with the Kraken 3 stars, as always brought to you by the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to help decide these stars or be a part of voting for channel Kraken awards at the end of the season, you can help support the channel a little bit more than you already are by watching to this point, which I thank you for, by going to the link down below and supporting on Patreon as well. With the 3 stars, there's no doubt in my mind that the first star, and the only one that I was certain I was going to give a star to at the end of the game, is Joey Daccord. 27 saves on 29 shots against him. A 30th shot was the empty netter, so that one doesn't count against him. So great night from Daccord, really did keep the Kraken in this game with a little bit of help from 3 guys. And at least one of those guys is going to be my second star, Oliver Bjorkstrand, as Christopher asked for nicely over on Patreon, and I can't disagree, is deserving of a second star with his spectacular sliding, no doubt, save there in the second period. And while both the Schultz and Evans ones also were along the same lines and probably would have ended up in the net if it wasn't for them, this is the one that I think stands out above the rest. And then with the third star, I was a bit on the fence about whether or not I wanted to do a third star, but you know what? I feel like we might as well get as many good vibes as we can. And again, I feel like the Kraken, even if it didn't go their way, played a respectable game. And in that vein, Ty Cartier played a very respectable game, a very good game, a very hard-hitting game, and certainly made his presence known on the ice. He's starting to become a player that I think could shape up to be a pretty decent third liner in the future for the Kraken, or certainly fourth liner. It certainly looks like he's going to be the type of player that's a pest to deal with, no matter who the Kraken are playing, as long as he is a part of the Kraken. And as always, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below, who your 3 stars would be, how you feel about this game, even though the Kraken got shut out. If you do feel like the Kraken embarrassed themselves by getting shut out, or if you, like me, think they played a decent game and just got beat by a better team, still would have been nice if they could have scored once. Until next time, though, if you haven't made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy the video, buttons for that kind of stuff down below helps support the channel. Like and subscribe, of course. Until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!